Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Bonhams Cars' third Greenwich auction at this location, the W.R. Berkley corporate headquarters. I am Eric Minoff, and I will be your auctioneer for today's auction, number 32391. We are grateful to the town of Greenwich, our host Berkley 1, thank you very much, and the entire W.R. Berkley team, you can come see them in the back there, for making this auction possible. I am pleased to welcome Melanie Rimmer here, the Chief Operating Officer of Berkley One Classics, to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for coming. This is going to be a lot of fun today. All the cars, the memories they conjure up, the passion I can feel in this room. What is more exciting than the energy of an auction? As Eric said, I'm Melanie Rimmer. I've had the privilege of working with Berkley for over 10 years, and we've had the amazing experience and ride of being the insurer of many vehicles for over 50 years now, and serving this incredible community. In a world that is increasingly digital and constantly focused on what's next at warp speed, it can all feel a little dizzying at times, I'm sure. So honestly, this is refreshing to be here together and to celebrate this moment and all the moments that each of these cars represents. As Eric said, this is our third year in partnership with Bonhams, and we are just so proud to be working with them again. It is an amazing opportunity. You know, it occurred to me while I was thinking about today to look up for the first time the origin of the word auction. It actually comes from the Latin root word augere, meaning to increase, to elevate, or to augment. Now, I'm sure there will be no shortage of increasing bids today, given the amazing lineup of cars that we have in store for you. But the idea resonated with me on a deeper level. It got me thinking about how each of us elevates the value that we bring to this community simply by being here and simply by being together. Whether you're a collector, a dealer, an auction house, an insurance company, or an enthusiast, there's something that each of you brings to this community. It's larger and stronger than any individual contribution. And I think that's what makes this so special. Hopefully nobody's here just to look at the cars today, because I think you'll be very tempted. That's like going to look at ice cream or puppies. You're probably going to come home with one. So ultimately, my advice to you is inspired by our panelists yesterday, and it's simple. Buy what you love and love what you own. If you do that, I don't think you'll come home with many regrets. Having had the chance to tour these cars, I think we're all in for a treat today. And so, without further ado, I'd like to bring back Eric for the main event, the thing you're all here waiting for, and I hope you enjoy the afternoon.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. Very much appreciate that. And again, our friends at Berkley are back there. You can chat with them about insurance. Certainly the best insurers to talk to here this weekend. Following Greenwich, we'll also want to remind you to join Bonhams Cars in Reno, Nevada for the National Automobile Museum auction. That's coming up, it's entirely without reserve and coming up on June 13th. That's Saturday, June 13th. And then in Monterey, California for the Laguna Seca auction on Thursday, August 13th. Maybe someday we'll have an auction that's not on the 13th. I have a few short announcements before we begin the auction. The sale is being conducted pursuant to the conditions of sale, included in the printed and online auction catalogs and published on our website. We suggest you read these conditions carefully as they apply to this sale, numbered 32391, lots 1 through 52. And for today's auction, we are working in conjunction with SST Motorcars LLC. They are a Connecticut vehicle dealer, and it is N2752 is their dealer license number. We will start the auction with motorcycles and swiftly move on to motor cars. Please remember that the purchase price payable is the sum of the final bid plus the buyer's premium and all applicable taxes. The buyer's premium for motorcycle property is 15% on the first $100,000 of the bid price and 10% on any amount of the bid price exceeding $100,000. I'll be very excited to reach that level. The buyer's premium for motor car property is 12% on the first $250,000 of the bid price and 10% of any amount exceeding $250,000. Sales tax will not apply if a completed valid resale certificate and dealer license is furnished at the time of purchase. Interested bidders should read the bidder information packet online regarding taxes and license fees. Bidders should note that the auctioneer may open bidding on any lot below the reserve by placing a bid for the seller. The auctioneer may continue to place bids for the seller up to the amount of the reserve, either by placing consecutive bids or bidding in response to other bidders. Except as expressly states in the conditions of sale, all items are sold as is, where is, and so we ask that you bid on items that you have previewed or for which you have received photo condition reports. Sale room notices that list corrections or updates to the lot details are posted on the lot details page online and will be announced by me if applicable. Please see the bidder information packet on our website for payment and collection instructions. Specifically note, and this is important folks, that all vehicles will be removed from the venue directly after the auction. Vehicles will be uplifted and held to order by Passport Transport. Uplift and storage charges are at the buyer's expense. So, with that, I am pleased to begin today's sale with lot number 1. This is a 1943 Indian 741 Scout. You can see it right over there. Lovely machine here. Looks like it's ready for battle. A quick note, sale room notice, the title is in transit on this. And we'll start this one off. Bids take me straight to $1,000, $1,000. I'm at $1,000, $1,000 in selling. I'll sell it at $1,000 if no further. At $1,000, $1,100, $1,100 here. It's $1,100 right here. At $1,100 in selling. At $1,100. $1,100, $1,200, $1,200 there. 13 he says. 14, 15, 16, 17, 2,000, 22, 25, 28. 3,000, 3,2, 3,5, 3,8, 4,000, 4,2, 4,2, 4,5. Are we sure? It's 4,500, 4,800 online. Thank you very much, online bidder. 4,008 against you. 5,000. 5,000 here in the room, saving on shipping. Any further online? Any further online? 5,500 they say. 6,000? I'll take 5,800. 5,800. Thank you very much. 5,800. It's 5,800. 6,100. 6,100. 6,500 is next. 6,500? Yes? 6,500. 6,800 is next, please. It's 6,500 here. Any further online? 6,800 online says. Against you, not you in the room. It's online at 6,800. Yes or no? At 6,800? I'll take 7. 7,000 then. 7,000 against you online. Selling then at $7,000, if no further, at $7,000 in selling, going once online, going twice online, third and final opportunity at $7,000, 7,200. 7.5 is next. Yes, no? Yes? 7.5 he says. At 7,500 then. At 7,500. Online, what do we think? A little bit quicker now this time. At 7,500. Any further at 7,500. Going once? Going twice. 7,500 and selling. 7,500. 7,500. And your number, please. 155. Thank you very much. All right, on to another bike here. 1950 Harley Davidson WL. Nice 45cc model here. It's demobbed Harley, tastefully modified. Title is in transit on this machine here. That's the show room notice. And we'll start this one off. Someone bid me 3,000. 3,000 to start me? 3,000 I have. It's 3,000. 3,000 is bid. 3,2, thank you very much. 3,5. 3,8. 4. 4.5? 4.5, saving time. 5. What was that? Well, it's 5.5 online. We're going in 500s, please. It's 5.5 online. 6 is next. 6 I have now. 6,000. 6.5 now. It's 6,500. 7,000. 7.5. Thank you very much. 8. 8.5. 8.5. Down here, he's out at 8,000, 9,000 online. $9,000 online and selling. Any further at 9? 9.5? 9.5. 9.5 against you online. 9.5. Selling then, if no further, at 9,500. At 9,500 and selling, if no further, it goes here in the room against you online, not yours online, at 9,500. Don't be afraid of the big zeros coming up next. At 9,500. Same as the last, 155. All right, next up, another motorcycle, this one a bit more modern. We've got a 2003 Harley Davidson VR SCV rod, 100th anniversary here. It's got 16 miles from new. Amazing twin cam machine here. Everyone likes to say the engine was designed by Porsche. So leave it to Porsche to design a water-cooled V-twin. But here we go then. It's selling at no reserve. Start me off. How about 10,000 anywhere? Start me off at 10,000, please. Can I have 10,000? 10,000 bid to start me then. Anywhere at 10 for a brand new bike. For a brand new motorcycle, at least in terms of the mileage, it's 23 years old. Anywhere at 10 to start me. Anywhere at 10? No? Then 5. How about 5? 5,000 only. 5,000 only to start. 5,000 only. Anywhere at 5. Must be sold. 5, I see. Thank you very much. At 5,000. 5,000, and we're in the money here at 5,000. I'll sell to you if no further at 5,000. At 5,000 and selling. 5.5. 5.5 here. It's ahead of you here. 5.5 here on the floor. 5,500, 6,000 online says. 6.5. 7,000 online. 7,500 online. Any further? It's against you here. Online, there's a few of you out there at 7,500 and selling. Do I sell at 7,500 then? I'm selling at 7,500, if no further, at $7,500. Yes, no, at 7,500, 8,000. 8,000, online has it. 8,500, still going, all online, all bidding the modern way for the modern bike. 9,000. 9,000, clicking away, click quickly, we all appreciate it. 9,000, 9,000, 9,500, 9,500, and going at 9,500. Online, you have it at 9,500. Any further at 9,500. Any further at 9,500. Selling at 9,500 then. Going once, twice, third and final chance, $9,500. 9,500, that's 6,128. All right. right, on to lot number 4, the last of our motorcycles. This is a 1928 Harley-Davidson Model B single. Quick note, the title is in transit on this machine. Lovely machine, used to belong to Norman Henry Africa Hobday. It used to hang in a bar in San Francisco, and your auctioneer has had many, many Irish coffees under it when it hung there. We actually sold this bike previously after the bar closed. So we'll bring this one into the market. How about 5 to start me off? 5 to start me off. 5,000. 5? 5,000 we have then at 5,000. Back there at 5. 5,000. 5,000. I'll sell at 5,000 if no further. 5.5 online against you. 5.5 online. 6,000 in the back now. 6.5. Thank you very much. 6.5 here in the room. 6.5. 7,000 online. 7.5. Against you online. 8,000. 8.5. 9,000. 9.5. 2 of you online now. Any further? 9.5. 10,000. We made it, folks, at 10,000. It's 10,000 now. 10,000 bid. Any further at 10? Keep me going at 10. At 10,000. I'll sell at 10,000. It could be restored and ridden, or you can hang it and drink Irish coffees under it. 11? 11? 11,000? 11 then. 11 here. It's 11,000. Add 11 then. Any further online? It's against you online at 11,000. Any further at 11. I'm selling at 11 then. At 11,000 going once. 11,000 going twice. 11,000 third and final opportunity online at 11,000. 11,000, 155 is the number. All right. Dipping our toe into motor cars, but with motorcycle power here. Lot 5 is a 1957 BMW Isetta 300 with all of 4 wheels here. Lovely machine. As you see it right over there, easiest thing to park, perfect for in town. And a beautiful restoration. It's just about a decade old. Interest in this starts me straight off. I'll go straight in at 15 only. 15,000 straight in. At 15,000 and selling. At 15,000, it's selling at 15 if no further. At 15,000, I'll sell at 15 if no further. I'll sell at 15 if no further. It's the best Isetta we have. 16 online, it's ahead of you. 16 online. 17. 17, thank you very much. At 17. 18 online. It's 18,000. 19,000 online. You've got it. 19. A couple of you out there in cyberspace. At 19,000. At $19,000 for the Isetta. 19,000. Any further at 19. Bid me again. 19,000. How about it? At 19,000. At 19 for the Isetta. At 19,000. Easy on gas. Gas is expensive these days. At $19,000. At 19. Is that 20? 20 I see. It's 20,000. Ahead of you online at 20,000 down here. Come back to me online at $20,000. At 20,000, you nearly had it. It's not yours at 20,000. 20,000 here in the room. At $20,000. Bidding in the room. Against you online. Against everyone else at 20,000. At $20,000. Online, what say you? At $20,000. At 20,000 then. Nicely restored machine here at 20,000. 20,000 going once then. 20,000 twice. Online, no regrets at $20,000. Are we sure at 20,000? 20,000, 155. All right, lot number 6, it's a 2017 Ford F650 ramp truck. You can't miss it. It's the biggest thing we've got there, bright red. Lovely machine. It's got a Triton V10 in it. And you could probably make back the purchase price doing a bit of towing here with it. So we'll start this one off straight in. 50 grand, it's at 50. $50,000 at 50. At 50, at 50,000. At $50,000. At 50,000. At 50,000. And 5. And 5 now. 55. 55. Any further. Any further. 55. 55. At 55. 55. 55, 60 then. It's at 60,000. 60,000, any further. Any further at 60. 60,000. At 60,000. 62 then. 62. Next one's 5. At 62,000. At 62,000. At 62,000. Any further at 62. $62,000 then. At 62,000. At 62. At 62,000. Goes great next to a Mercedes ramp truck. At 62,000. At 62. Any further at 62. At 62,000 then. Quiet at 62. Any further at 62. Any further at $62,000. Are we all finished? Online, are we quiet at 62? At 62,000. At $62,000. 62 then, I move along at 62. 62,000, thank you very much. All right, lot number 7. Lot number 7 here. It's a 1953 Mercury Monterey Special. You can see it there, showing beautifully outside. Title's in transit on this machine. It's nicely restored. Lovely coral and orange color scheme. Very period correct on that. And it's no reserve machine here. Straight in, I must be bid 12 grand. It's only 12 here. 12,000, I have to be bid at 12. At 12. It's bidding at 12 and selling at 12. I am selling at 12,000. Any further at 12. A lot of car for the money at $12,000. At $12,000. At $12,000. 13 online. Thank you very much. 13 online. My book is out. You've got it online at 13. $13,000. Any further at 13. Any further at $13,000. 13 for the Mercury. At 13. At $13,000. At 13,000. 13,000. This thing has a pretty cool looking flathead in it at $13,000. A lot of car here for the money at 13,000. At 13,000. 13, quiet then at 13. At 13, it's selling, folks, at $13,000. At 13, it's going to find a new home. I cannot believe it. At 13,000 only. At 13 only. 13, 14 then. 14, thank you very much. 14 down here at 14,000. 14,000. 15, straight back here online. 15 against. Go 16. 16. 16,000 against you online. Now we're moving. Now we're in auction. At 16. Against you. Online, what do you say at 16? Any further at 16? Any further at 16,000? At $16,000. At 16,000 and selling. 16,000 online, you nearly had it. Do you want it back at 16,000? At 16,000. Selling at 16. Any further at 16? At 16,000. At $16,000 only. At 16. 16 for the tastefully upgraded Mercury Monterey. At 16, I will sell it at $16,000. If no further, no regrets online at $16,000. Going once, twice, third and final at $16,000. 129 is the number. All right. We're on to lot 8 now. This is a rare survivor here. It's a 1929 Essex Challenger 6 coupe with a rumble seat. Not a lot of these around. A quick note, the original steering hub has perished. A replacement hub will be provided to the new owner at no cost. Lovely machine here, though. Nicely presented, older restoration. Shows very well back there. Great for the family. You can roll down the window if you want to listen to the kids in the back, or roll it up if you don't. So we'll start this one off. How about it? 10,000 only. 10,000 only for the Essex coupe. 10,000 only. Bid me somewhere. 10,000 only to start me off for the Essex. At 10,000 only. A lot of car for the money. At 10,000 only. At 10,000 only. Anywhere at 10. Anywhere at 10 here. Huge amount of car for the money at 10. Huge amount of car for the money. Anywhere at 10. Online or required at 10. At 10,000. Somewhere bid me here. Start me off. Start me off. How about it? At 10 only. At 10 only. At 10. Try me at 5 then. At 5,000 only for the Essex. 5,000. I cannot believe it. At 5. Would 5,000 take it home? 5,000 for the Essex. Somewhere, please. It's no reserve. It is selling. It will go. At 5,000 only. Bid me anywhere at 5. Bid me anywhere at 5,000. How about it? 5 online. Thank you very much. Online, you've got it at 5. And 5,000 is where it will sell. 5.5. We've woken up at 5.5. It's all bidding the modern way for the old car here. At 5.5. 5.5 any further. Keep going. At 5.5. At 5.5. At 5,500. Keep going here. At 5.5. Any further at 5.5. Room, feel free to join here. At 5,500. At 5,500. At 5,500. 6,000. 6,000. Still going. 6,000. All online right now at 6,000. At 6,000. Still going online. How about it at $6,000? 6,000 for the Essex. $6,000. 6,000 here. At 6,000. A lovely touring machine here at $6,000. Do I sell at 6? I will. It's no reserve. It's got to go at $6,000. Any further at 6? Yes, 5. 6.5. Still going at 6.5. 6,500. At 6,500. There's a few of you online. A few of you online at 6,500. At 6,500. Keep going here at 6,500. Any further at 6,500. 7,000. 7, they say. It's online. Still online. $7,000. It's all online. I'm looking at you there through the screen. Hello from cyberspace. At 7,000, bid me again at 7. You're all welcome to join here in front of me as well. At 7,000. At $7,000. Selling at 7. Selling at 7 then. At 7,000, the gavel's in the air at 7,000. No regrets online at $7,000. At 7,000, online, what say you? At $7,000, last chance online at $7,000. Yes, no, it's 7. 7,000, that's 6105. All right, and as Monty Python would say, and now for something completely different. Lot number 9. This is a 2006 Dodge Viper SRT10 VOI 9 edition prefix, aero, and performance package. One of only 2 cars to have both packages. Single owner from new. They picked it up in Las Vegas as a new car at the Viper owners meet there. And phones, are we live? We'll start this one off. Bids take me straight in at 60,000. I'm 60,000 already at 60,000. 60 straight in. It's selling at no reserve, so it must go. Oh, real quick. Sale room notice. Due to Connecticut emissions laws, please note that this vehicle may only be sold to an out-of-state resident for use outside of the state of Connecticut or to a licensed automotive vehicle dealer. It's got about 5,000 miles on it. So at 60,000, 5 online, 70 back against you. It's 70,000. 70,000, down here with me, 70,000, against you online, against the phones, against the room, at $70,000, and selling at 70,000. Any further at 70. Any further at 70,000. I'll sell at 70, if no further. Any further. Any further. Phones will be quiet. No, I'm walking this back, actually. I'm sorry. Can you take back that 65,000? Like we do that? Sorry about that. It's at the... there was an error here on the paper here. I'm sorry. We're back at 60. We're back at 60. It's 60,000. Sorry about that online. It's at 60,000. 60,000. Any further at 65 online then. At 65. It's yours online at 65. At 65. It's back at 65. At 65. 65,000. At 65. 70 I have then. 70. There's my 70. Thank you very much. At 70. It's against you online. Phones have it. At 70. At 70, any further online? Any further online? At 70,000. The telephones have it. It's against you all. It's no reserve. It's selling. At 70,000. At $70,000. Looking for its second owner. At $70,000. At 70,000. 70,000 only. Are we done at 70? Online, are we done at 70? It's right here, selling to the phones at $70,000. At 70 then. I'll sell at 70,000. Any further? Phones, online, room, 70 grand. Any further at 75. Back online. Back online. 75. At 75 then. It goes at 75. It's going at 75. 75,000 to my online bidder. Any further? Phones, what do we think at 75,000? At 75,000. 75,000 and selling at 75. Yes, no at 75. Yes, no at 75,000. What do we say at 75? Yes, no. I'll sell at 75 then, if no further, at 75,000. Going once. 75,000 going twice. $75,000. Third and final chance at $75,000. 6022. 75 grand. Thank you very much. All right, we are on to lot 10 here. Lot number 10, this is the 2007 Porsche GT3 RS. It's equipped with a 3.8 liter GT3 Cup spec motor here. Lovely machine here. It's actually originally orange, but it's wrapped in black. Quick note, due to Connecticut emissions laws, please note that this vehicle may only be sold to an out-of-state resident for use outside of Connecticut or to a licensed automotive vehicle dealer. So, interest in this. Bids take me straight in. We're going straight in at 140, 50, 150, straight in at 150, at 150, at 150, at 150 already, at 150. It's at 150, at 150, at 150, at 150, 160, 160, ahead of you online, at 160, at 160, at 160, 170 online, 170, 180 against you, 180 against you online. 180 against you. Online, it's not yours. 190, they say. 200, back at you. At $200,000. At 200. At 200. At 200. At 200,000. At 200,000. At 200. Against you online. Against the room here. At 200,000. Any further at 2. At 200,000. At 200. At 200,000. At 200. At 200. You were so quick online here. At 200. At 200. I'm holding the bid at 200. At 205. 205 then. I'll take 5. Take 5 if it helps, at 205. Any further at 205? It's against you online at 205. At 205. At 205. At 205. At 205. Any further online? At 205. At 205, 210, 210, thank you very much, at 210, at 210 then, at 210, 210, 210, at 210, at 210, at 210, any further? Online, are we quiet? At 210. At 210. Any further at 210. Killing me, Smalls. 212. At 212. At 212, we're selling the car at 212. At 212,000, I'm selling. It's finding a new home here at 212. At 212. Any further? At 212, or do I sell? At 212 online, come back to me, please. At 212 and selling. And selling, remember you can rip that wrap off and make it orange again. At $212,000 and selling. At 212. Any further? No? Okay, 212. It goes at 212. Selling at 212. Online, are we done? 212? Yes, no? 212. 212. And the number, please. 6053. All right. Thank you very much. And on to one of the stars here today, lot number 11. This is the 1957 Porsche 356A 1500 Carrera GT. There you are. You can see it right there. This is the OG Carrera GT, folks. Lovely 4-cam machine. It is finished in its rare factory color of aquamarine blue. It's beautifully presented here. Currently fitted with a pushrod engine, but the 4-cam comes with it, and the 4-cam, of course, was originally fitted in an RS60 chassis number 044. So quite a sporty motor there. And it's no reserve, so it's finding a new home. And I'll bring this one into the market. How about someone bid me $250? Let's just get this done. How about it? $250, bid me now. It's $250 only. That's the cheapest Carrera you'll ever find. You can buy $250. Thank you very much. $250. You get the motors for that much. At $250. Any further at $250. Phones, are we live? At $250. At $250. At $250. At $250. $250. How about $280? Nope. How about $280? $280. Thank you very much. $280. At $280. $280. Are we continuing at $280? $290. How about 3? At $280. $300. Thank you very much. $300. Too late. $300 down here. We're going up this time. $320. Thank you very much. At $320. At $320. $320. We already have $320. At $320. Melanie so kindly defined auction. We go up. At $320. At $320. At $320. It's here. Against you, sir. $350. At $320. $350. Thank you very much. $350. Here. $350. $380. $380. $380. It's at $350 then. At $350. Well, I already have that. How about going up at $380? At $350. At $350. At $350. I'll take that. $375. Thank you very much. 4 is next. At $375. At $375. $375. Any further at $375? Any further at $375? Any further? $375,000 is here at $375. Yes, no at $375. $400 be next. How about it? $400? $400? $400? It's $375 here then. At $375. Any further? At $375. Phones, are we quiet at $375? At $375. $390. I'll take $390. $390. $400 straight back. I'll go in tens because I'm feeling nice. How about it? $400 against you. Against you. It's $400 here then. Any further at $400? Online, are we quiet? At $400. At $400,000. At $400. At $400 only. $400 only. For the Carrera GT. 410, thank you very much. 420, right back. 420. You said no last time. I don't know if I can trust you. So it's 420 behind you. It's not yours. At 420. 420, any further? Any further? At 420. At 420. That can't possibly be the high number here at 420. At 420. Any further at 420. 420. Are we sure at 420? Yes, no. At 420,000. 430 I have. 430. 440, he said, straight back. 440. It's 440, straight back against you. 450 would be next. At $440,000. At 440. And selling, it's no reserve. It must be sold. At $440,000. Find a cheaper Carrera GT if you can. At $440,000. At 440 only. $440,000 only. At 440. I'll start to call it if no further. At 440. At 440. 450, he says. 460. At 460,000. At 460. At 460. 460. At 460. Any further? At 460. Any further? At 460. At 460 then, any further? Are we done? At 460, I'll start to call it again. At 460 going once. 460 going twice. 460, no regrets. At $460,000, it's the best one we have today. At $460,000, 460. And your number, please. 171, thank you. All right, thank you very much. All right, and we're on to lot 12 here. This is the 1954 Jaguar XK120 SE Roadster showing back there outside. A quick note, folks. Please note the exhaust was damaged in transport. The damage will be rectified by the transporter at no cost to the buyer. And it's selling no reserve. It's a numbers matching car as far as the engine there, engine and chassis, verified by its JDHT certificate, and it's delivered new to the United States. So we'll start this one off. It's no reserve, straight in, 40. At 40, it's straight in at 40. At 40,000, at $40,000. At 40 I have, it's 40. And selling at 40. It will sell at 40 only. At 40, there are so many events you can do with this thing. At $40,000. At 40 and selling. At 40 and selling. Selling at 40. 42. Yes? 42. Thank you very much. It's 42. 42 down here. At 42. At $42,000. At 42. Any further? Online. Are we quiet? At 42. At 42 only. 42 for the Jag. At 42. Any further? At 42. 45 online. 45. Online bidder has it. 45. At 45. 48. It's against you online. It's 48 here in my room. It's 48 here in the room. Any further? At 48. Selling at 48. Online? Any 50 online. 5 is next. At 50,000 online. Any further? Any further? 55. 55. Is that a bid at 55? Fine, 2. 52. I'll take 2. 5 is next. At 52. 52, here in the room. Against you online. Against the room. At 52, standing. Selling then to the room. Any further online? Are we quiet? At 52,000. At $52,000. 55. Ahead of you online. Got a bit quicker. At 55. Here. Any further? Any further? At 50, 58 is next. 58, please. At 55,000. At 55,000. At 55, online. What do we say? At 55. At $55,000. At 55. Am I selling at 55? Am I selling at 55? I will. No further. 55,000. He's saying no. At 55. Online. Any further. At 55,000. At 55,000. At 55 and selling at $55,000 going once. At $55,000 going twice. Online, last chance at $55,000. 55, 155 is the number. All right, and we're on to lucky number 13 here. This is a 1987 Porsche 944 Turbo 951. Has a factory-rated 217 horsepower, turbocharged, 2.5-liter, 4-cylinder. Lots of torque out of that machine here. Beautifully finished maraschino red, metallic over burgundy. Here's a murder scene for you. Wonderful red on red, lovely machine, showing back there. And we'll start this one off. It's no reserve. How about $5,000 only for the transaxle Porsche here? At $5,000, 5 only. Start me off. How about it? 5,000 only. 5,000 I see at 5,000. At 5,000. At 5,000. Entering the Porsche world at 5. 5,500 online. 5,500 online against you. Against you. 5,500. Any further? 6,000. Thank you very much. 6,000. 6,000. Some new blood in the hobby. I love it. At $6,000. At 6,000. 6,000. At 6,000. Any further at 6. I'll sell at 6. I'll sell at 6. 6,500 online against you. 7,000. Thank you very much. 7,000. 7,000. Young lady's bid there at 7,000. 75. Where does 75? I heard it. 75 is there. 8 straight back at you. She wants it at 8,000. Any further at 8? Any further at 8? 8,500 online. 8,500. 9. 9,000. 9,000. At 9,000. At 9. Here. At 9. Any further? I sell 9,500 online. 10. 10,000. At 10,000. At 10,000. Bidding like a bid on the book. I love it. At $10,000. At 10,000. And here. And selling. If no further. At 10,000. Online. What do you think? At 10,000. At 10,000. And going. At 10. Going once. Going twice. 10,000. Third and final chance online at $10,000. 11 online. 12. All right, online, a little bit quicker now. It's $12,000. And selling here to the young lady at 12,000. 12,000 going once online. Twice. 13. Are you sure? You were so eager. At $13,000. For you, 500. I'll let you bid 500. At 13,000. No, you're out? All right. I appreciate the bidding. Thank you very much. At $13,000. Selling online then at 13,000. Any further at 13. Down she goes. 6032. Okay, and we're on to the next of our Porsches here. This is a lot number 14, 1961 Porsche 356B Super 90 Cabriolet. You can see it in the back corner there. Very nice machine here. Nicely restored. Do lots of events with it. It's got its original engine. And how about we start this one off? We'll bring this one in. Straight in 80, 90, 100,000, 100, at 100, at 100, at $100,000, at 100, at 100. 100 we have. It's 100. I already have 100 here at 100. At 100. At $100,000. At 100. At 100. 10. 110. It's 110. Thank you very much. At 110. At 110. At 110. 20. 120. at 120, 120, at 120, 130, 130, $130,000, $130,000, at 130, at 130, at 130, 140, 140, at 140 then, at 140, at 140, at 140. Are we quiet online? At 140, at 140, at 140, at 140, at 140, at 140, 150 then, 150, 150, at 150, at 150, at 150, at 150, 60, 160, at 160, 160, at 160 then, at 160, at 160, at 160,000 only for the car, at 160, 170, it's 170, 170, at $170,000, against you at 170, at 170, any further, 170, 170, at 170, 80, 180, it's 180, at 180, 180 against, I'll take 5 if it helps, 180, 180, at 180, at 180, any further, at 180, against you, sir, at 180, against you at 180, start to call it then, 180, 180 going once, 180 going twice, 180, third and final chance at $180,000, at $180,000, going away at 180, at 180, 180, thank you very much. Okay, and we're on to lot 15 here. Lot 15. This is the rare left-hand drive Morgan Super Sport here. It's a 1967 Morgan +4 low-line Super Sport 2-seater. Left drive US spec car. It's delivered new to the Netherlands, but quickly came to the United States. Lovely machine. It's got its hard top. Rare item here. Major service was completed not too long ago. Quick note, please note the complete engine number is CT69187ME, and that is the number under which the car is titled. And we'll start this one off here. Start this one off at 40 only. 40,000 at 40, at 40, at 40,000, and 2, and 42 then, and 42, and 42, 42,000 only for the Super Sport. 45 online. I see you there. Thank you very much. 45 online. 45, 48, 48. Against you online. At 48, at 48. 50, they say, straight back. At 50, at 50. And 5, and 5, and 5. $55,000. 55, 60 online. 60 online. 60, $60,000. And 5, and 5, $65,000 against you online. Against you online. 70, $70,000. Online bidder has it at 70,000. At 70,000 and selling at $70,000. At 70,000 and selling at 70,000. Fantastic machine. You can do a lot with this at $70,000. VSCCA eligible at 70,000 and selling at $70,000. At 70. Are we quiet then? At 70. Online has it. It's all online. At 70,000 and selling at 70,000. At 70,000 and going at $70,000. At 70,000 going once then. at $70,000 going twice. Third and final chance at $70,000. $70,000. 70,006,009 is the number. All right, and we're on to lot number 16. This is the AC Asika, beautifully restored. Used to live here locally. Was owned by a very exciting enthusiast tourer who drove it on many rallies. It's been in the current care for some time here now. It's a car that's been out here in this region for a long time. Lovely machine, one of just 151 that were powered by a lovely 6-cylinder inline here. And it was originally delivered in bright blue over beige. You can see it right there in the back of the room. And bids take me straight in at $65,000 at $65,000, at $65,000, at 65, 70 there, at 70,000, 70,000, at 70,000, at 70, and 5 against you, and 75, and 75, 80, it's 80 there, at 80, 80,000, 80,000. 82 against you. It's against you. 82. Go 5. 85 down here. At 85. At 85. 85. It's against you, sir. Against the phones. At 85. At 85. Any further? At 85. Online. What do you say? 85. 85,000. 85. It's 85. 85, 88, 88,000, 90 down here, ahead of you. It's 90 down here, at 90 down here. Any further at 90, any further at 90. It's 90 down here with my bidder here, at 90,000, at $90,000, at 90,000. At 90,000, 92,000 here, 92, it's 92,000, at 92, against you here, against you online. Are we sure? Are we sure? At 92,000, at 92,000, at 92, at 92,000, at 92,000, at 92,000, 95,000, at 95. The car is in the market. It is selling. At 95,000, at 95, at 95,000, down here, any further, online are we quiet, at 95,000, 97,000, 97,000, at 97,000, at 97, any further at 97, at 97, how about we make it the even 100, at 97,000, at 97 and selling. Are we done at 97? Are we done at 97? Yes, no. At 97. Are we sure? At 97,000. I'll sell then at $97,000. Going once, twice, third and final chance. No regrets at $97,000. 97. Your number, please. 999. Thank you. Paddle 99. Okay, and we're at 17 now. This is the 280 Mercedes-Benz 280 250 SL. It's got a 4-speed manual transmission, row your own there. It's got its desirable hardtop, of course. It's presented in beautiful astral silver over black. I can just see it peeking out right there from my elevated position. And we'll bring this one straight in. How about it at 50, 60, 70, 80,000 already at 80,000, at 80,000, straight in at 80, straight in at 80,000, at 80,000, at 80, at 80, at 80,000, at 80,000, and 5. Thank you very much at 5, 80,000, 85, 85 now, at $85,000, 85,000, 85,000. 90 now. 90 now. It's 90,000. 90,000. At 90,000. At $90,000. At $90,000. At 90,000. And 95. 95,000. $95,000. At 95. At $95,000. At $95,000. At 95,000. At 95,000. At $95,000. At 95. At 95,000. 95. Any further at 95? Are we quiet at 95? At 95. At 95. And 100 then. $100,000 at 100. At $100,000. At $100,000. Any further at 100? Any further at 100? At $100,000. At 100,000. At 100. At $100,000. At 100,000. At 100. At 100. Online, come back to me here. At 100. At 100,000. At $100,000. At 100. At 100,000. At 100,000. At 100. At 100,000 then. Are we quiet in the back there? At 100,000 then. At 100. At 100 going once. At 100 going twice. At 100, third and final opportunity at $100,000. 100, thank you very much. All right, lot 18 here. This is the Persang. You can see it right there, the Type 35B. This will come as no surprise. There's a quick sale room notice. Due to Connecticut emissions laws, please note that this vehicle may only be sold to an out-of-state resident for use outside of Connecticut or to a licensed automotive dealer. Shockingly, it didn't pass emissions, but it has a 2020 title. It's a fantastic opportunity to get the full experience of a Bugatti Grand Prix car at about a tenth of the price of a Bugatti Grand Prix car. One owner from new. Really lovely machine. Seen it driving around here. It makes a lovely noise. And we'll start this one straight in at 1, 10, 20, 30,000. At 130 already. At 130. At 130,000 for the Persang. For the Persang. Open air motoring at its best. 140. Thank you very much. At 140. 140. Down here. At 140. At 140. At 140,000. At 140. I see you there. At 140. At 140. At 140, at 100, 150, 160. It's 160 here. At 160, at 160, at 160, at 160, at 160, at 160, at 170, 180, at 180, at 180, at 180, at 180, 80 here. Online, what do we say? At 180. Any further? At 180. Any further? At 180. At 180. At 180. At 180. Down here. At 180. At 180. At 180 then. At 180. 185 against you. 190. It's 190. Down here at 190, at 190, at 190, down here, and selling at 190, at 190, and selling at 190, down here at 190, and selling. Are we out? At 190, 190, are we out? At 190, online, any further, it's finding a new home. It's driving away. At $190,000. At $190,000. For the Persang at 190. Gavels in the air then at 190. Any further at 190. 190 going once. 190 going twice. Any further at $190,000. I sell the car at 190. Your car, 190. You got one. And your number, please. Was it 162? 162. All right, we're on to lot 19. This is the Duetto. 1967 Duetto, 1600 Spider. There it is, you can just see it. Beautiful white car there. Enthusiast owned, well-maintained example. I guess to quote 15,000, 16 against you, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, I'm out, 22, you've got it, at $22,000, at $22,000, at $22,000, at $22,000, 22, yours is 22, you have it, you don't have to bid against yourself, you can, at 22, it's 20, I have 20 here. Then you're out. 20 with me. It's 20 with me then. It's 20 with me. It's 20,000 with me here at 20,000. At $20,000. At 20,000. Here I am on my book at 20,000. At 20,000. At 20,000. Selling to the absentee at $20,000. Do I sell only at $20,000? At 22. Thank you very much. At 22. At $22,000. At $22,000. Perfect machine to get an older woman with here. At $22,000. At $22,000. At $22,000. At $22,000. Who's looking for their Mrs. Smith? At $22,000. At $22,000. I'll sell then. At $22,000. The duetto goes. At $22,000. At $22,000, you can be Dustin Hoffman for $22,000 only, going once then. $22,000. Going twice. $22,000. Any further at 22? Online, are we quiet at $22,000? 111 is the number. Okay. On to lot 20, second Essex here. This is the sportiest of our Essexes that we have. It is one of only about 12 speedabouts that we know of, from 27 at the very least. Lovely machine there. You can see it back there. About the most economical way to get yourself a boat tail here. Plenty of power from this machine. Selling without reserve. We'll start this one off. About 10,000 only to get the boat tail. At 10,000. Bid me anywhere. 10 grand only. 10 grand for the boat tail. At 10 grand only for the boat tail. At 10. I can't believe it. At 10. At 10 only. Bid me somewhere. Start me off at 10. Start me off at 10, please. For the boat tail speedster. For the boat tail, or speedabout, pardon. At 10 only. At 10 only. At 10 only. How about it? At 10 only. At 10 only. At 10. 10,000. Thank you very much. At 10. At 10. And selling. It'll sell at 10. If no further. At 10. At 10,000. At $10,000. At 10,000. At 10,000. Down here, 11 online. 11 online. It's against you. It's against you online. Against you. Any further. Any further. 12 online. It's all online now. At 12. Keep bidding with me, please. At 12,000. Online. 13 online now. It's with you online. At 13,000. At $13,000. Don't be scared, trichosticophobics. At 13,000. Let's keep going. At $13,000. At $13,000. How about it? Let's keep going. 14. Thank you very much. Back in the room. 14,000. It's not yours online. At $14,000. At 14, 15. Back online. 15. Online. At 15. You've got it. Bidding them on our way. 16. Thank you very much. 16. Back here. 16. Against you online at 16,000. 16. 16 and selling. 16 and selling. Any further? 17, they say. 17,000. $17,000. At 17. At $17,000. At 17,000. At $17,000. At 17. At 17,000. At $17,000. Online has it, not yours here in the room, at 17. Come back to me at 17. Bid the lucky high at 17. 17,000. It's 17. 17 then to the online bidder and selling at 17. If no further, at 17. 18. Different place online. There's two of you in cyberspace. I don't know if you're wearing pants, you're on the internet. At 18, 19 now. At 19,000. At 19,000. Clicking and swiping. Who knows how? At 19,000. Maybe on the app. Maybe on the website. 20,000. Now we're alive. Now we've got an auction. $20,000. I love it. Keep clicking. Keep bidding me, please. At $20,000. At 20. It's selling. It's no reserve. At $20,000. Do I sell? At 20,000. Yes, no at $20,000. Yes, no. At $22,000. At $22,000. It's 22 now. At 22,000. At 22. Offer them 4, please. At 22,000. At 22,000. At $22,000. At 22. We'll go in twos. Keep it simple. At 22,000. How about it online? Keep coming. At $22,000. At 22. Bid me please. At $22,000. Are we out at 22? Are we out at $22,000? It's the best speedabout we have here today. At $22,000 going once then. At $22,000 going twice. Online any further? At $22,000. Third and final chance at $22,000. 22,000, that's number 167. Come see us in Reno. We have another 27 and a 29 speedabout. 167 is the paddle number there. All right. And on to lot 21. I think this is the last of our 356s. This is a 1957 Porsche 356A T1 Speedster. There you see it right behind you. Beautiful black car. Lovely machine there, beautifully restored. You can live out all your Steve McQueen dreams right there. What a machine, eligible for just about anything you could ever want, and you look cool doing it too. It's no reserve, it's selling, it's going away. I'm not going to waste time. Straight in at 150, straight in at 150, 150, 160, 160, 170, 170, 180, 190, 190, 200, 200, 200, 200, 220, 220. Keep going. 220. It's 250. 250. Any further? At 250. Down here at 250. Any further? Keep going. At 250. At 250. Down here at 250. We're in the estimate at 250. At 250. At 250. At 250. 250 down here at 250. Offer the online 10 if they helps. At 250. At 250. At 250. At 250. At 250. And selling at 250. It's no reserve. It's got to sell. 260 online. They've got it. 260. Online bidder has it at 260. At 260. 260 online. They've got it. They see the value. At $260,000. At $260,000. The last of the 356s we have today, and the most speedstery of them all. At 260. At 260. At 260. Any further at 260. Any further at 260. Any further at 260. At 260. At 260. I'll sell online at 260 if no further. At 260 and going. At 260,000. At 260 going once. At 260 going twice. At $260,000 and selling. Third and final chance. No regrets. At 260, it's selling, folks, at $260,000. Down she goes, and that's 6044. All right, and on to lot 22. A slightly more luxurious machine, a 1970 Mercedes-Benz 600 Pullman limousine. You cannot miss it. It is enormous, and it is right there in beautiful light blue, single ownership. Since 1978, it has not traded hands since Jimmy Carter was in office, folks. Finished in blue metallic. It's one of only about 124 of these Pullmans that were made. Fantastic machine. The interior is stunning. You could definitely run an African dictatorship from the back of this thing. So it's no reserve. I've got to sell it. Start me off. How about 50 grand anywhere? Start me off at 50. Bid me 50. 30, is that what you're bidding? 30, fine. I have 30. 30. We're off and running at 30. At 30 only. At 30. At 30. She runs, she drives. She's standing up tall. At 30,000.
35 here.
35, great. 35. 40. At 40 here, any further? 45. 50. Too late. 55. Ahead of you on line. It's 55 down here. Any further online phones? 60. Thank you very much. That's the right direction. At 60. Got a bit quicker online. At 60,000. At 60,000. 65. At 65,000. At 65. At 65. A lot of car for the money. 70,000. Still a lot of car for money. Look at the size of the thing. At $70,000. At 70,000. 75. Thank you very much. 75,000. At 75. 80 online. 80,000. They got friends and they want to take them somewhere. At 80,000. At 80,000. 82.5. Next one's 5 online. At 82.5. Down here. 82.5. 82.5. At 82.5. 82.5. Any further? At 82.5. At 82.5. Against you online. At 82.5. 85. 85,000. Over here. At 85,000. At 85,000. At $85,000. I know he has friends to take somewhere in that. 87.5. 87.5. 87.5. 87,500. At 87,500. I'm selling 87,500. At 87,500. Going once. 87,090 online. 90 online. They know they can make 92.5 straight back. 92,500. At 92,500. Think of all the money you can make driving Uber with this thing. At 92,500. At 92,500. 92,500 for the Pullman. 92,500. At 92.5. At 92.5. At 92.5. And selling at 92.5. Join the likes of such illustrious owners as Idi Amin, Leonid Brezhnev. 92.5. 92.5. The next is 95, please, online. At 92.5. At 92.5. At $92,500. At 92.5. 95 online. 95. 97.5. Thank you very much. 100 is next. At 97.5. Down here. 100 is 100 online. 1025. What say you online? At 1025. $102,500. It's no reserve. It's selling. Going once then. Online any further, going twice. Third and final opportunity online at 100, 105. 110. 110. It's against you online. It's not yours. Thank you very much. At 110. Any further? At 110. At 110. How bad do we want it online? Let me see that bid. At 110. Going once then at 110. Going twice at 110. Third and final opportunity at $110,000 at 110. 110. And the number is, did we get a number? 110. 99 is the number. All right. On to something a little bit easier to park. It is lot 23. This is a 1966 Morris Moke Mark I that has been enhanced by the French artist Lucas Beaufort. Stunning machine. These are great. Far more fun to drive than a Jolly. Very cool art car. You can see it right there. I can't see it, but you can. And we've got plenty of interest in this. Interest takes me straight in at 20,000. At 20,000, I'm bid. At 20,000. Straight in at 20,000. At $20,000. At 20. At 20. And selling. It's no reserve at 20. And selling at 20. And selling at 20. Any further at 20. Any further at 20. This is such a cool machine. At 20,000. At $20,000. At 20. At 20 and selling. At 22 online. 22 online has it. At 22,000. At 22,000. At 22 online you've got it. At 22,000. At 22. At 22 only I'll sell at 22. At $22,000. At 22,000. At 22,000. At 22,000. This is the coolest art car we have here today. At $22,000. This would be perfect for the Hamptons, Nantucket, where else? At 22,000. At 22,000. At 22,000. At $22,000. Online, it's yours right now at 22. Any further at 22. Are we quiet? 22,000. At 22,000. At 22,000 going once. 22,000 going twice. 22,000. Third and final opportunity at $22,000. 226148 is the number. Lot 24, 67 soft window, 911S Targa. See it there? Closest thing you got to open air motoring until Porsche came out with the 911 cab in the mid-'80s there. It's a very soft window, delivered new with Recaro seats and the Dunlop 165/15 tires. This was originally, what, Aga Blue was it? Aga Blue from new. What was it? Bali Blue. Apologize. Bali Blue. But it's nicely documented. It's got its Cardex. Lovely machine here. And it is selling without reserve. So, start me off. Let's not waste time. How about 80 grand to start off on this one? 80 grand. Bid me 80 somewhere. At 80,000. 80,000 only for the 911S. 80. I've got 80. Thank you. We're in the money at 80. At 80. It's bid 80. At 80,000. I'll sell at 80. It's no reserve. 85. 85. At 85. 85. On the phones. Against the floor. At 85. At 85. 90. $90,000. At 90. 90 only. At 90 only. At 95. At 95. It's 95. 95 now. 100. 100,000. 100,000. At 100,000. Let's keep going at 100. Let's stay in. Let's do 10, please. At 100. Any further? 110. Thank you very much. 110. 120. It's against you. It's 120. 130. 130 back here at 130. He's seen it. He knows what it's like. So have all the other bidders at this point. It's 130 already back. You want 35? 5. 135. You can have 40 if you'd like. Same to your bidder as well, Alan. At 135. 140. $140. Selling at 140. 5. Against you. 50. 5. I am. But I'll take 160 at 155.
Would you take 157, sir?
I'll take 160 at 155. 160, he says. Too late. 160, back here. 165. Are you sure? You've come so far. How about one more? The worst that can happen is you own the car. At 165. 170, he says. 175, you nearly owned it. It was brief. At 175. Have another look. It's right over there. At 175. Are we sure at 175?
Take 177.5.
I'll take 180 at 175. At 175. At 175. I'm selling at 175 then, if no further, at 175. Going once at 175. Going twice at 175. Are we sure, 100%, absolutely not going to regret this later, at $175,000? I am selling then at $175,000. Down she goes. 99. All right, we're on to lot 25. This is the 1958 Alfa Romeo Giulietta Spider Veloce. It's one of just 1,093 of these Spider Veloce short wheelbases produced. Lovely 1300 series twin cam, factory Webers, the Dolce Vita right back there. It's no reserve. Lots of fun with one of these. Lots of fun with one of these. And we'll start this one off 40? 40 only? How about it? So bid me anywhere. 40. 40. 40,000. I see you there. At 40. At 40 and selling. At 40 and selling. At 42 online. 5. At 45. Against you online. At 45. At 45,000. I'll sell then at 45. I'll sell at 45. At 45,000. 48 online. 50. $50,000 down here. Any further online at 50,000? Any further online at $50,000? Selling at 50 then. Selling at 50. Online, are we quiet? Room? Anywhere? $50,000 at 50 only. At 55. $55,000 online against you down here at 55,000. It's 55,000. How about it? How about 58? 58,000. At 58,000. 60 is next. At 58,000. At 58,000. Any further online? Come back to me here. At 58,000. Selling at 58 then. At 58. I'm selling at 58,000. At 58,000. You can be like the talented Mr. Ripley at $58,000 going once. 58,000 going twice. Online, are we quiet? At $58,000. 162 is the number. All right, on to lot number 26. This is the 1997 Porsche 911 Type 993 Carrera S Coupe. Nice car, delivered new to Carlsbad. It's classic color scheme, arena red metallic over gray partial leather. Well-presented vehicle, you can see it back there. A lot of fun, wide hip, air-cooled. And we'll bring this one straight in. How about it at 100? At 100 already. At 100. At 100 we jump. It's 100 already. At 100. At $100,000. At 100. at 100, at 100,000, at 100, at 100,000. In the back, 10, thank you very much. And 10, 110. It's 110 now. 110, 110, 110, 110, 120 then. 120, 120, on 120 online. Well, 120, 120. 130 in the back though. 130 against you online. 130, 130. It's 130. 130. 130. 140. 140. Take their bid, please. 140. 140. 140. It's 140. 140. 140. Online a little bit quicker, please. At 140. At 140. At 140. 145. 145. It's 145 now. 145. 150 is next to the online bidder. It's 145. 145. 145. Any further? At 145. At 145. 145. 145. 150 then. 150. It's 150. It's 150 now. 150. At 150. Don't be afraid. Bid me now, please, online. It's only 5 more to bid here. At 150. 150. At 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 150. Online, are we quiet? At 150. Any further? At 150. At 150. I'll start to call it then. At 150. Going once. At 150. Going twice. At 150. Third and final chance. Online, are we quiet? At $150,000. 150. All right, lot 27. This is a 2005 Porsche 996 911 Turbo Cab. Sale room notice. Good news! Please note, according to the copy of a build sheet and also the sticker under the hood, this Porsche was delivered new with the 450 horsepower X50 power kit. So that's a positive sale room notice, folks. Remember, it's got more power here than we listed in the catalog. It is black with a black interior. Showing back there, turbocharged drop-top motoring. And we'll start this one off at 50, 60,000 already. It's 60,000 straight in at 60. At 60,000. At 60. At 60,000. At 60. At 60,000. And 5. I see you there. And 65. And 65. 65. 65. 70. 5. 80. 'It's against you. 82, is that what you want? 82. 82,000. 85 is next online. 82,000. 82,000. 82. 82. It's 82,000 at 85. 88 is next. At 85. Against you. It's 85. Any further online? Are we quiet? At 85. 85,000. Any further? At 85. 85,000. at 85. 85,000. 88 coming in the back. 88,000. 88,000. It's 88,000 at $88,000 at 88. $88,000 at 88. At 88,000. At $88,000. At 88,000. At 88,000. And 90. 90,000. $90,000. At 90. At 90. $92 now. 92. 95. At 95. At 95,000. At $95,000. At 95,000. Any further at 95. Any further at 95,000 then, going once. 95, going twice. $95,000, third and final at 95. 95,000, thank you very much. Lot 28 now. It's a 1974 Jaguar E-Type Series 3 Roadster showing there. The hood is up, I can see it there. Lovely machine here. It's the V12, British Racing Green, over biscuit. Doesn't get more classic than that. Perfect for top-down grand touring motoring here. And we'll start this one straight off at 55,000 already, at 55. At $55,000, at 55, 55, at 55, at 55,000, at 55, 60 then, at 60, 60,000, at 60,000, at $60,000, at 60,000, 5 online, 65 online, 65, 65, 70, 70, down here on my floor at 70,000, bidding in line at 70,000, at 70,000. Online, what's it? 75. New place. 75. 75. 80, she says. At $80,000. At $80,000. At $80,000. $80,000. Any further at 80. At 85. At 85. Back here. At 85. At $85,000. At $85,000. At $85,000. Online any further. At 85. $85,000. Back here at the high top at 85,000 and 85,000. $85,000. 85 at 85,000 at 85 and selling at $85,000 and selling at 85,000. It's going here at 85,000. Any further at 85,000. I sell the car at 85,000. At 85,000. If no further at $85,000. At 85,000 and going at 85,000. Any further online at 85,000. Down she goes, 85,000. Your number, please. 114. All right, lot 29 now, the Bentley Azure convertible, less than 18,000 miles. It's back there. Ordered in black emerald. Last, these big boy Bentleys right there, 2002, 6.75 liter power. Lovely machine, lovely machine. Those were, I think, the most expensive car you could buy at that time. So here we go, well, one of the most expensive, the 2002 Bentley. We'll start this one off straight in. 45, 48, 48,000. 48,000 is already in. 48,000, it is. 48,000, 48,000. At 48, 50 already. It's 50. At 50,000, $50,000. At 50, at 50, at $50,000. 50,000 for the Bentley. at 50, at 50, at 50,000, at $50,000, at 50, at 5, 55 now, 55,000, $55,000, 55, any further at 55, any further at 55,000, at 55, at 55,000, at 55,000, at $55,000, 60. It's 60,000, at $60,000, at $60,000, 60,000, $60,000, at 60, at 60,000. Come back to me, at 60,000, 60,000, and 5, 65,000, at 65, at $65,000, at $65,000, any further at 65, any further online, at 65,000, at 65,000, at $65,000, at 65, at $65,000 for the Bentley, at 65 going once then, at 65 going twice, 65,000, third and final opportunity at $65,000, 65,000. Corvette time, 1957 Chevrolet Corvette Roadster here. It's right there, Aztec copper over beige. Beautiful bit of Americana. It's got the 4-speed manual. Lovely machine, V8 power, of course. There you see it. And it's no reserve. We'll bring this one in. What do we think? 30 grand somewhere. Bid me 30 only for the Corvette. 30 straight in. I've got at 30. At 30. At 30 I've got. At 30 and selling. At 30,000. At 30. Any further at 30? Do I sell at 30? Do I sell at 30? It's already his at 30. 32. 32. 32. Against you. Against you at 32. He's saying no, so one and done maybe. 32. 35. 35. 5, please. 38 online. It's 38. 40. Moving along. I appreciate it. 40,000 down here. At 40. At 42 online. 42 online bidder. Online bidder. 45 another online bidder. At 45. At 45. 45,000. At 48 all online now. It's all online. Have another look. At 48,000. 50 now. At 50,000 ahead of you online. At 50,000 here in the room. At 50,000 any further online. Any further online at 50,000. At $50,000. At 50,000 for the Corvette. You nearly had it at 50,000. At 50,000. Offer them 2, please. At 50,000. At 50,000. At 50,000. Offer the online 2, please. At 50,000. At 50,000. Selling at 50,000 if no further at 50,000. At $50,000. Online, what do you think at 50,000? At 50,000. Any further at 50,000. Sell the car then at 50,000. Selling the car at $50,000 going once. $50,000 going twice. Are we connecting? Okay. We'll wait for that phone bidder to get on. At 50,000 then, sticking here then. At 50,000. At 50,000, are we live here at 50,000? At $50,000. At 50,000. Going once then at 50,000. Going twice at 50,000. Third and final at 50,000. Any further at 50,000? 50,000. Battle 99. All right, lot 31 now. This is a 1988 Rolls-Royce Silver Spur. Offer without reserve This thing has only 10,875 miles on it, time of cataloging. It's right there. It looks practically new, to be perfectly honest. Acrylic white over tan with an Everflex roof. It is stunning. A beautiful example of the machine here. And it's no reserve. Start me off now. How about it? 15 grand anywhere. 15 grand. 15 grand only to start. That's like a tenth. I have 5 already against you. I have you 5 against you. It's 5,000 then. 5. 5 is bid. 6. I'll take 6,000. It's 6,000. 6,5. 6,5. It's ahead of the online bidder down here at 6,5. 10. Great. I like it. Moving along, saving me time. 10,000 at 10,000. 11. 11. Ahead of you online. 11,000. 11,000. 12. Ahead of you online. 12,000. 13. Online. You finally made it at 13. At 13,000. At 13. At 13,000. Any further at 13. At 13,000. At 13. 14,000. Against you online at 14. At 14. 15. Back where I wanted to be at 15. At 15,000. 15. Keep going, please. At 15. 15,000. At 15,000. $15,000. Any further at 15. At 15 then, and selling at 15. 16. New place online.
16 here?
Nope, 17 already online. They're walking away from you at 17,000. 17,000. 18. Now you got it. 18,000. He's got it. The telephone has it. 19 straight back against you online. It's 19. It's 19. 19,000. Let's keep going. At 19. Keep it up, please. At 19. At $19,000. At 19. At $19,000. At 19.
20 here.
20. Thank you very much. 20,000 down here. At 20. 20,000. How about it online? At 20,000. At 20,000. At 20,000. Online, what do you say? 20,000 down here with me. At 20,000. At 20,000 on the phones and selling at $20,000. At $20,000, if no further, I sell at 20,000. 22 online. 22,000 online bidder has it at 22,000. At 22,000. 22 online. You've got it. Your car right now. How about it? At 22,000. At 22,000.
Take 23, sir.
I won't, because 25 is bid online. It's 25 online. 25 online. At 25 online. There's a couple of you out there online. At $25,000 and going. At 25. I'll sell at 25, if no further. At 25 going once. At 25 going twice. That's a dangerous wave, sir.
26, sir.
26. Quickly, though. At 26. Offer them one online. At 26. At 26. Online, please. Bid me quickly. At 26. Going once. At 26. Going twice. Online, what do we think? At 26,000. Any further? At $26,000. How about 7? Yes, online. At 27. I'm not dropping it any further than this. At 27. At 27,000. At 27. Bid me again. Quickly, please. If we're splitting bids, we're going fast. At 27,000. Online and selling. If no further. 27,000. No regrets. At 27,000. I'm selling at 27. Yes, no. At $27,000. Are we all done? At $27,000. 27,000. 6054. All right, we're on to lot 32. 1993 Bentley Brooklyns. It's a long wheelbase here. Also be sold without reserve. You can see it right there. This is the sportier version of the Rolls Royce. Lovely machine. Sold here in Greenwich in the pre-COVID days. And it's no reserve. Will start me off. Bid me anywhere. How about it? Bring me in. $5,000 for the Bentley. Someone bid me 5. 5 I've got. 5,000 for the Bentley. It's 5,000. 5,000 for a Bentley. That's about as good as you get at 5,000. 5,000 any further. Keep going at 5. Keep going at 5. 5,000. British Racing Green Machine at 5,000. Any further at 5 do I sell? One and done at 5? 5.5 online, they say. 5.5 online. At 5.5. At 5.5. They like it. At 5,500. Very luxurious way to go. At 5,500. At 5,500. At 5,500. At 5,500. There's someone here that knows a lot about this car. At 5,500. At 5,500. At $5,500. At 5,500. Selling at 5,500. Any further at 5,500. I'll sell at 5,500. How about 6? At 5,500 and selling at 5,500. Yes, no, at 5,500. Any further at 5,500. Are we all done? 6. There we go. At 6,000, new place. 6,000. Thank you very much. At 6,000, 6.5 straight back against you. At 6.5. At 6.5. I saw this car was once maintained by Carriage House. I don't know if you're familiar with them. 6.5. At 6.5 against. 7. Yes. 7,000. At 7,000. Any further online? At 7,000. At $7,000. At 7. 7,000. Not yours online. Not yours on the phone. 5, they say. At 7.5. At 7,500. 7,500. Go 8. 8. Thank you very much. At 8,000. At 8,000. 8,000 against you online again. At 8,000. Keep going, please. At 8,000. At 8,000. Any further at 8, or do I sell at 8,000? Going once at 8,000. Online. Going twice at 8,000. I sell at $8,000, if no further, to my bidder here at $8,000. 8,149. All right, slot 33, the Maserati Shamal. It's 1992 Maserati Shamal, one of only 369 of these produced. You can see it right there. A wonderful machine designed by Marcello Gandini. If you couldn't recognize it from that big old kink in the rear wheel well, super powerful machine. 326 horsepower from a twin turbocharged V8 motor. This thing will move. Here's the future we were promised. Lovely car here. We'll start this one off. How about it? 45, 50, 55 already, 55, 55, 55 already, at 55, 60, 65, 65, at 65, at 65, at 65,000, at 65, at 65, at 65, 70, 70,000, at 70,000, at 70, at 70,000, at 70,000, at $70,000, at 70,000. At 70, I see you there at 70, at 70, at 70, and 5, against, 75, at 75, at 75, some thinking time, at 75, online, feel free to join in, at 75,000, at 75, at 75,000, $75,000, at 75, at 75,000. $75,000. Any further at 75. Any further at 75. Any further. 80. 80,000. It's 80. 80,000. At 80. At 80,000. At 80. 80,000. 2. 82 then. It's 82,000. At 82,000. At $82,000. At 82,000. At 82,000. At 85. 85. 85,000. At 85,000. At $85,000. At 85,000. Any further at 85,000. Any further at 85. At 85,000 then. At 85,000. Any further at 85. at 85,000, 85,000 then, and 85. Thank you very much, 85,000. Diablo time, more Gandini. It's a 1991 Lamborghini Diablo, showing just under 46,000 kilometers at the time of cataloging. There you see it, hard to miss with the doors up like that. It's a Canadian market car from new, documented multi-province ownership history, and it's a midnight blue metallic. Lovely car, lovely car. There we go. That's a legend of the era. I remember they used to use that to tell you to stay in school, kids. Someday you'll be able to buy a Lamborghini. So interest straight in takes me to 50, 60, 70, 80, $190,000 already at 190. At 190 we're in. At 190. At 190,000. At 190. At 190. At $190,000. At 190,000. At 190. At 190. At $190,000. At 190. At 190. And 2. Thank you very much. And 200. 200 then. And 2. And 2. 200,000 and 200,000. It's 200. $200,000. 220. Thank you very much. I see 220 in the back. 220 standing. 220. Thank you very much. At 220. 220. At 220. At 220. At 220. 220. 240. 40 against. 240. It's 240. 240 against you. At 240. At 240,000. At 240. Any further at 240. 250 on the line. 250 online bidder has it at 250. At 250 online. At 250. 60 then. At 260. Straight against you online at 260. At 260. Any further at 260. At 260. At 260,000. Any further in the back there? Was that a silver Derringer? At 260. Any further online at 260. At 260,000. At 260. At 260. At 260. I'll start to call it then at 260 going once. 260 going twice. 260, third and final chance online, and to the rest of the room here at 260,000. 260. 260, thank you very much. All right. Keeping in the era, we've got lot 35 here. It's a 2003 Lotus Esprit V8. Very cool car here. Quick notice, please note, this vehicle comes with only one set of keys, and due to Connecticut emissions, that this vehicle may only be sold to an out-of-state resident for use outside the state of Connecticut or to a licensed automotive dealer. Very neat machine, though. I remember driving these in Need for Speed. Oh, driving them in Need for Speed. And we'll start this one off at 40, 45. 45,000 already. 45,000. It's 45. 45. 8. 48. Straight in. 48. 48 now. 48. 48,000. 50 online. Thank you very much. At 50. At 50,000. Online has it. 50. 55. 55. Against you online. Against you online at 55. 60. Straight back. At 60. At 60,000. At 60. At 60,000. At 60,000. And 5. 65. 65,000. At 65,000. 70. Online at 70. Online at $70,000. At 70,000. At 70,000. Online has it at 70,000. Online has it at 70,000. Okay? Online, you do have it at 70. It is yours at 70,000. All right, fantastic. 70,000. The online bidder has it at 70,000. Any further at 70. Any further at 70. Online, I'm selling it at 70,000. It's going to be your car online at $70,000. At 70,000 and going. At 70,000. Any further? 70,000. At 70,000. At 70,000. At $70,000. At 70,000. 70,000 is still yours online. I'll sell it. Going once, online. Going twice, online. Third and final chance at 70,000 to the online bidder. 70,000, 6138. $36. This is the 1998 Aston Martin DB7 Volante. Sold new here in Greenwich. Aston Martin of Greenwich to its first and only owner, and only has 17,000 miles on it. There it is, Pendle black over tan, right back there. Very stylish machine, an early 6-cylinder machine. Aston's most legendary engine setup. And it's no reserve. Bring me in, one owner from new. How about it? We'll start off at only 10. Someone bid me 10 for this. 10,000 only for the Aston. 10,000 only. That's in the 10th of what it was new. How about it? Someone bid me 10. Someone bid me 10 online. Thank you very much at 10. It's 10,000 with the online bidder at 10 and selling at 10. If no further, 11 they say. 11. Online has it at 11. Keep going, please. At 11. 12. 12. Thank you very much. Down here in the room at 12,000. At 12,000. At 12. Any further at 12. Keep me going at 13. 13. Thank you. 13 online. Against you now. At 13. At 13,000. Not you at the high top. At 13,000. The online bidder has it at 13. At 13,000 and selling. Any further at 14 online. 14. 14,000 online. Any further? 14,000. 14, 15. 15 all online at $15,000. At 15. At $15,000. At 15,000. At $15,000. At 15. You've got it online at 15,000. Any further at 15? 50. How about 16, please? How about 16, please? 16? Doesn't matter. 16 online. 16. 16. It's 16. We're going into thousands. At 16. At 16,000. At 16. At 16. At 16. Any further at 16? At 16. Online, it's still yours. You're welcome to bid, sir, at 16. At 16,000 and selling at 16,000. Any further at 16? I sell at 16 then. If no further, going once at 16. 17. Online. Still online. 17,000. Still online. You still have it online, but there's a couple of you out in cyberspace. At $17,000. At $17,000. At 17. 17,000. 17,000 going once then. $17,000 going twice. $17,000. Third and final chance. That's 18,000. At 18. 18,000. The countdown begins anew. At 18 going once. 18, 19. 19,000. At 19. Any regrets at 19? I will sell at 19. Any further at 19? Bid me 20, please. At $19,000 only. At 19. At 19 and going. At $19,000. I sell at 19. If no further, at $19,000. 6106 is the number there. 19,000. All right, lot 37 now. Lot 37, this is a beautiful 1971 Mercedes 280 SE 3.5 cab. You can see it there, very elegant machine, factory correct. dunkelblau, that's dark blue for us English speakers, with black leather as the original color scheme there. I believe it has a tan interior now, is it? Okay. All right. Cognac. Cognac. Ah, delicious. Enjoy a nice cup of that. Beautifully presented, though. Euro spec car. Great thing to cruise down the avenue anywhere in the world here. And we'll bring this one in, straight in at 180, 190, 190, 190. It's 190, 190,000 at 190 only, at 190,000, at 190, at 190, at 190,000, at 190, 200 online, 220 straight against you, at 220 against you, at 220. At 220, 220, at 220, at 220, at 220,000. Online any further, at 220.
225, sir.
How about 230? At 220. Offer the online the same, at 220, at 220. 230 online. 230 online. It's online at 230. At 230 online. Any further at 230. Any further at 230. At 230. At $230,000. At 230. At 230. At 230. At
235, sir.
I'll take 240. At 230. At 240, thank you. At 240, at 240, at 240 now. At 240, at 240, at 240 then. 240, at 240, 240,000. At
Take 245, sir.
You keep asking, I'll be nice. 5, fine. They are offered 50 online. At 245, it's down here against you, online, against you here, at 245. At 245. Any further, at 245. Any further, at 245, here on my phones, at 245,000. At 245. We quiet online, at 245. Are we quiet? At 245. At 245,000. At 245. At 245. At 245. At $245,000. At 245. At 245, currently with the phones here at 245. Any further at 245,000, at 245,000, at 245, at 245, at 245, at 245. I'm selling online at 245. At 245, it is finding a new home at 245. Any further at 245,000. Any further at 245, it is selling at $245,000. Rest assured it is going at $245,000. Going once then at 245,000. Twice at 245,000. It is selling at $245,000. Any further at 245, yes, no at 245. 245, the number please. The number, Ian. 245, Ian, the number. Ian, your paddle number.
Paddle number 108.
There you go, that's what I need, 108. Thank you. All right. Lot 38. This is a 1969 Fab Car 911 GT2. Really, it's been modified a little bit. It is street legal, though. Quite the machine. It's got a 3.6 liter flat six. It makes something like 350 to 380 horsepower. It's got a Dave Killam engineering chassis. Very fast, very fun car. I'm sure you could do a lot of damage with this machine. And bids take me straight in at 50,000, straight in at 50, at 50,000 already, at 50,000, at 50,000, 50,000. I have 50,000. I have 50,000, at 50,000, at 50, at 50,000, at 50,000, 50,000, and 60 straight back at you. $60,000. It's 60,000. It's 60,000. 60,000 is bid right here on my book at 60,000, at $60,000, at 60,000 against you at 60,000, at $60,000, at 60,000 with the absentee, at $60,000, at 60,000, at 60,000, 60,000. And any further online at 60,000, at $60,000, at $60,000, at $60,000, 65 then, at 65. $65,000, $65,000, at 65, 65,000, at $65,000, at 65,000, at 65, at $65,000, 65, 70 then, 70, against, what do we think? At 70,000, at 70,000, at 70,000, at $70,000, at 70, 2, 72, 72,000, at 72,000, at 72, at 72, at 72,000, at 72,000, at 75, 75 now, 75. Next bid is 78, please. At 75. It was ahead of you online. You nearly had it. At 75. At 75. Bid me now, please. At 75. Any further. At 75. At 75,000. It's nearly yours there online. 78,000. The online bidder has it. At 78,000 online. Online at 78,000. Any further at 78. Any further at 78,000. Any further at $78,000. Any further. Online, you have it right now at 78,000. At 78,000. At 78,000. At 78,000 online. Some thinking. At $78,000. 78,000. At 78,000. At 78. It's your car right now online, and it's going to be your car. It's selling at 78. Any further at 78,000. At 78,000 to the online bidder. At 78,000. At 78,000 online. And selling any further for this fabulous fab car. At 78,000. At 78,000. Going once then. At 78,000. Online, it's yours at 78,000. Any further at 78,000. I sell the car at $78,000. Your car, 6003. All right, lot 39, Ferrari time. 1983 Ferrari 308 GTS Quattro Valvole. What a phenomenal year 1983 was, especially for me. This is one of 871 GTS units built globally. It's finished in the classic color combination of Rosso Corsa red over beige leather. Beautiful car, right there. There you see it. Wonderful machine here. You can Magnum PI all you want in that thing, I think. Grow a mustache, lots of excitement. And lots of interest in this car, lots of interest. We've got bids straight in at 65, 70. I'm not going to waste time. 70,000, straight in at 70. Straight in at 70. It's 70,000 right here. 70,000. At 70,000. At 70,000. Here with me at 70. It's 70,000. Any further at 70. Any further at 70. Any further at 70. It's 70,000. At $70,000. At 70,000. 5, 80, right back against you. 80,000 here on my book at $80,000. The absentee has it at $80,000. At $80,000. $80,000 with the absentee. My absentee, $80,000. Bidding the easy way. Let me do the work at $80,000. At $80,000. At $80,000 and selling. It's going away at $80,000. They're solving crime at $80,000. At $80,000, do I sell at $80,000? At $80,000 for the 308 and going at $80,000. Any further at $80,000. I sell the car at $80,000. 60,6159. All right, lot number 40 here. This is a 1967 Ford Bronco half cab truck. There it is. Very practical machine, especially if you're moving a small apartment or friends. A lovely thing. These are so popular right now because they are so stylish and cool. Finished in Rangoon red with white accents. Sympathetically restored. This is the perfect thing for summer, folks. Doesn't get much cooler than this. I wish I had one of these. And it's selling at no reserve. So why don't we start this one off? How about 25 only for it? Start me off. 25 only for the Bronc. 25 only for the Bronco. 25 only for the Bronco. 25 only. I bet Icon will sell you one for 400,000. At 25,000 only then. Start me off anywhere. Bid me please at 25 anywhere. Anywhere at 25. Someone bid me please. Someone bid me please at 25. Anywhere at 25. Anywhere at 25. Anywhere at 25. Bid me please at 25. Anywhere at 25. Start me at 15 then. At 15, 15, I see. At 15, it's bid. 15, and going. At 15, any further at 15. At 15, 16 online. 16, 17. 18. 19. 19, all online right now. At 19,000. At 19. 20, online, still has it. At 20, 20,000. At 20. At 20,000. Any further? At 20,000. At $20,000. At 20 for the Bronco. At 20. At 20. Keep going, please. At 20. At $20,000. There you see it. At $20,000. Be the coolest guy on the road at $20,000. At $20,000. At 20,000. At 20. Far better resale value than a new one. At $20,000. At 20,000. At 20,000. At 20. I'll sell it then at 20,000. 22. 22, please. For you, you've bid so much. 1. Fine. 21. It's 21 down here. 22 for the online bidder. It's 21 down here. 21 down here. 22. They're straight back. They have your 22. At 22. At 22,000. At 22. The car gets bigger if you buy it. You can look at me, though. It's 23 now online. At 23. At 23. Are you sure? I don't know. You keep saying no, and then you bid. It's very confusing. At 23,000 online. At 23,000 online. At 23. 24? 24 now. 24,000. 24,000. 24,000. Online, come back to me at 24,000. At $24,000. At 24. At 24,000. At 24,000. Online any further at 24. At 24,000. I sell the car then at 24. At 24,000. Online, are we quiet then? At 24,000. Any further at 24. And selling at 24,000. 5. 25,000 online. It's 25,000. 25,000. Any further at 25. Any further at 25. Any 6. 26,000. At 26,000. At $26,000. Against you online at 26,000. Against you online. Quickly, please, at 26. At 26,000 and going at 26. At 26 and going. Going once then at 26,000. Going twice at 26,000. Third and final chance at 26,000 online. It's selling at $26,000. 149 is the number. Lot number 41 now, Corvette time. Here we go. This is a 1978 Chevrolet Corvette 25th anniversary coupe. You can see it out there in stunning silver. Silver anniversary two-tone. It's got 2,210 miles at the time of cataloging, so it's practically a new vehicle, lo these many years later. And it's selling at no reserve. So, start me off. How about 10,000 only for the practically new Corvette? Bid me 10 anywhere. How about it? 10 anywhere. 10 anywhere. Start me off at 10, please. Start me off at 10 anywhere. Start me off at 10. 10? 10. I have. It's bid. It's selling at 10,000. At 10,000. At $10,000 and selling, if no further. 11 online. 11. 11,000. 11,000. It's 11,000. 12. 12,000 against. It's 12,000 against you online. At 12. At 12. 13 online. It's 13 online. 13,000. 13,000. A few of you online. At 13. Any further at 13. Any further at 13. 14 online. New place. 14,000. 14,000 online. 14,000. At 14,000. At $14,000. 15,000. 15,000. Another online bidder. 15,000. 15,000. That has the high output L82 at 16,000. 16,000. 16,000. At $16,000. 16 to join the Corvette group here at 16,000. 16,000, 17 now. At 17,000. At 17,000. At 17, 18 now. Now we're moving at 18,000. Keep bidding quick. At 18,000. $18,000. Come at me, please, at 18,000. Bid me again. I love it. At 18, 19. 19,000. At 19,000. At 19. Keep clicking. Keep swiping. $19,000. 20,000. 20,000 is bid. It's 20,000. Still online. It's all online. At 20,000. At $20,000. At $20,000. At 20. What are we doing? At 20,000. Do I sell or do we keep going? At $20,000. At $20,000. At 20, I am selling at $20,000. At $20,000 and going at $20,000. Online any further at 22,000 now. At 22. At 22,000 online. At 22,000. At 22. 25. 25,000 now. 25. $25,000. $25,000. At 25,000. At 25,000. At 25. 25,000 online, but there's multiple folks out there at 25,000. Are we continuing at 25, or do I sell at $25,000? What do we think? What do we think online at $25,000? At 25, I'll sell at 25 if no further. At $25,000 and going $25,000. 256160. All right, lot 42. This is the 1905 Cadillac Model C/F detachable rear entry tonneau. Wonderful machine. You can see it there. It's eligible for lots and lots of great events, including the Audrain Veteran Car Club Tour, which happened a couple weeks ago, the HCCA, lots of HCCA events and Thumper events. Title in transit. Interesting history on this car. Spent a long time in Norway most recently. And plenty of interest here. Bids take me straight in. 20 grand. I'm at 20 grand. At 22 grand. 22,000. At 22,000. 22,000 already. At 22,000. Bids take me to 22,000. At $22,000. At 22. At $22,000 already. At 22. At 22 to thump along with the best of them. 22, the standard of the world here. At $22,000. At 22. At $22,000 for veteran era motoring. At 22. Any further at 22. Any further at $22,000. At 22. Do I sell at 22 only? Do I sell at 22 only? At $22,000. At 25 online, thank you very much. The online bidder has it at 25. 25,000 online, you've got it. Bidding the modern way for an older vehicle there. I love it. $25,000 at 25. At $25,000. 25,000 online, you've got it at $25,000. Huge value for the money at $25,000. At $25,000 and selling at 25. If no further, at $25,000, I will sell at $25,000. Any further, at $25,000. At $25,000. At $25,000. I'll start to call it here at 25. 25,000 going once. 25,000 going twice. Room for the kids with this one at $25,000. Third and final opportunity at $25,000. Down she goes, 25, and that's 6105. And a quick reminder, we are in Reno 2 weeks hence with a bunch more vintage cars. Lot 43, this is a 1920 Essex Model 5A. Nicely presented, been tastefully uprated for long distance touring. It's got an alternator, distributor, more. And a quick note, this vehicle's title is a 1919. Lovely machine, perfect for some long haul tours. Why don't we start this one off? $5,000 anywhere. Bid me 5 only. 5 only for the Essex. 5 only for a pretty sporting pre-war machine at 5 only. At 5 only. At 5,000 only. At 5 only for it. 5 only. Essex time. 5,000 only. Anywhere at 5. Start me off, please, at 5. Anywhere at 500. At 5,000. 5,000 online I have. It's 5,000. Online has it. $5,000. At 5,000. The online bidder has the Essex at 5,000, and I'll sell to the online bidder if no further at 5,000. Online, you've got it at 5,000, at $5,000, at 5, 5,5, 5,5. Bidding online, it's all online at 5,5, at 5,5. Come back to me now at 5,5. Any further at 5,5, at 5,5, at $5,500, at 5,5, at 5,5. How about a few more bids here at $5,500? Very nice car. You can certainly move along with this one. I understand it's quite a quick car at $5,500, at $5,000, $6,000, at $6,000, $6,000. Now there's several of you out there. Keep on bidding at $6,000, at $6,500, at $6,500, at $6,500, at $6,500, at $6,500, $6,500. At $6,500. 7,000. Still online. It's all online. It's $7,000. At 7,000. $7,000. Still bidding here at 7,000. At 7,000. Don't miss your chance at 7,000. At $7,000. At 7,000. At $7,000. At 7,000. At 7,000. At $7,000. At 7,000. At $7,000. At $7,000. At $7,000. At $7,000. At $7,000. Watching for you online at 7,000 here. At 7,000. I see that at 7,000. At 7,000. At 7,000. At 75 online. Thank you very much. At 75. Sorry about that online. At 75. Let's keep going. At 75. At 78,000 now. It's 8,000. 8,000. And moving along at 8,000. At 8,000. 8,000. Still going. At 8,000. At 8,000. At $8,000. At 8,000. $8,000. At $8,000. 8,000. I will sell at 8,000. Are we moving along at 8,000? Or do I sell at $8,000? At 8,000 going once. At 8,000 going twice. At $8,500. $8,500. $8,500. It's all online. Lots of modern bidding. $9,000. $9,000. At $9,000. Who's going to buy all these old cars? Lots of people look at them all bidding, and they're all bidding modern way. Lots of young folks jumping into the hobby here. Great way to do it at $9,000. $9,000. At $9,000. $9,000. At $9,000. At $9,000. At $9,000. Bid me, please, at $9,000. Any further online at $9,000, or do I sell at $9,000? At $9,000, the gavel's in the air. At $9,000 going once. At $9,000 going twice. At $9,000, third and final opportunity. At $9,000 online, $9,000. $9,6105. Lot 43 now. This is a 1930 Chrysler Series 66 Business Coupe. Right there. Did I say 44? It's lot 44? Right. Did I say 42? Oh, 43. Oops. Lot 44. Just kidding. It's lot 44. It is a 1930 Chrysler Series 66 Business Coupe. You see it right there. Selling without reserve, part of a museum collection. Lovely Chrysler vehicle here. It's business time. Let's get our business socks on. Start this one off. How about $5,000 only? $5,000 for the Chrysler. $5,000 only for the Chrysler. $5,000 only for the Chrysler. Bid me anywhere. $5,000 only. $5,000 for the Chrysler. $5,000. At $5,000 only. Bid me anywhere, please. At $5,000. Anywhere at $5,000. Anywhere at $5,000. How about it? How about $2,000 then? It's no reserve. It has to sell at $2,000. Anywhere at $2,000. Anywhere at $2,000. A very stylish machine for that amount of money. $2,000 online. We've woken up at $2,000. Oh my God, they're all bidding. $5,000 would be next, please. $2,500 would be next. At $2,000. At $2,000. At $2,000. At $2,000. We're going to move a little bit more quickly here. At $2,000. At $2,000. At $2,000. Fine. 2,200. Let's move it along then. At $500 bids after this, though. At 2,200. 2,500. 2,500. Thank you very much. 3,000 is next, please. At 2,500. At 2,500. At 2,500. 2,500. At 2,500. At $2,500. At 2,000. 3,000 is next, please. 2,500. At 2,500. At 2,500. At 2,500. At 2,500. 3,000. Thank you very much. At 3,000. 3,500 would be next. At 3,000. $3,000. At 3,500 now. At 3,500. 3,005. 4 would be next. At 3,005. At 3,005. At 3,005. At 3,500. 4,000. Thank you very much. At 4,000. At 4,000. 4,500 would be next. At 4,000. At 4,000. 4,000. 4,500 is bid. At 4,500. At 4,500. 5,000. At 5,000. Thank you very much. 5,000 online. You still have it. Lots of online bidding here. At 5,000. 5,500. 5,500. It's 5,500. 5,500. 5,500. Online still with you at 5,500. At 5,500. At 5,500. You made me work for it at 5,500. At 5,500. 5,500 and selling at 5,500. Any further at 5,500. I sell, if no further, at $5,500 and selling at $5,500. 6008 is the number. All right, lot 45 has been withdrawn. Lot 46 is a 1950 Mercury convertible. Hell of a lead sled. You can see it right out there. It's got a Chevy 350 in it. And it was done by Ken Brown of Ken's Custom Cars. That's a bit of American graffiti if I ever seen it. And this one comes straight into the market. At $18,000. At 18, I have 18. It's already at 18 and selling. It's no reserve. It's selling at 18. Any further at 18? Any further at 18? I sell at 18. Any 20? 20? 20. Fine. 20 I have. Thank you. 20. Ahead of the online. At 20. At 20,000. At 20,000. At $20,000. At 22 online. 22 online. 25. 25, please. 25. Yes? Yes? 25. Thank you. 25. Ahead of you online. 25. It's against you online at 25,000. Down here at 25,000. It's 25,000 then, and going at 25,000. At 25,000. At 28. Against. 28. Against you, against the others online. At 28,000. At 28,000. At 28,000. At 28,000. I'll sell at 28,000 then, if no further, at $28,000. At $28,000. And online any further, in a room any further, at 28,000. At 28,000.
30 here.
30, thank you very much. 30,000 down here. At 30,000 against you online. It's back in the room at $30,000. Thank you for your bidding, sir, at $30,000. At $30,000. At 30. It's going at 30. If no further, online any further. They say 32. At 32,000, it's online. You're here, you can see it, it's gorgeous. At 32,000, any further at 32,000. No, 32,000 then, to my online bidder. At 32,000. I sell at 32 then, if no further, at 32, 35. 35, against you online now. At 35. At 35, new place. 35,000. At 35,000. At $35,000. At $35,000. At $35,000. At $35,000. Perfect for the Bear Mountain cruising. At $35,000. Perfect for any cruising. At 35. Any further online? At 35,000. Any further? At 35,000 then. I will sell at 35,000. If no further, at $35,000. I am selling at 35,000. 35 going once. 35 going twice. $35,000. Third and final opportunity online at $35,000. 149 is the number. Okay, lot 47, it's Imp time. This is a 1935 Riley Imp Roadster. Ex-Bernie Ecclestone here. This Riley, a quick note, this Riley has its original front suspension setup, which is of course a rigid front axle with 2/4 elliptic leaf springs. And it was delivered new to the UK. Lovely file on this machine. Lovely file. It's got its original Buff log book, some nice things here showing there. Really sporting machine. And it's no reserve. And bids take me straight in at, I'm already at 40. Already at 40,000. Here with me at 40. Already at 40. Here with me at 40,000. At 40,000. Right here. 40,000. It's 40,000. And selling at 40,000. Any further? 42. 5 against you online. At 45 now. At 45,000. $45,000. At 45. At 48. 50. Back at you. At 50 grand. $50,000 right here with me on my books. At 50,000. At $50,000. At 50,000. 55. 60 against you. At 60. 60,000. Still with me. Still with me. Bidding with the absentee at 60,000. At 60,000. At $60,000. At 60,000. At 60,000. 65. Online has it. I'm out. You've got it. At 65,000. It's going at 65,000. At 65,000. and selling at 65,000, at 65,000 and going at 65,000, at 65,000 going to a good home at 65,000, at $65,000. I sell at 65 if no further, at 65,000. Any further bids at $65,000 for the imp, at $65,000. No reserve, it must be sold. Going once then. 65,000 going twice. $65,000, third and final opportunity at $65,000, and I sell at $65.70. New place online at 70. 70,000. Different online bidder at 70,000. At 70,000. Lots of online bidding on this one. At 75 now. At 75. At 75. Strumming away at 75 here. At 75,000. At 75. 75,000. Are we selling at 75? I'll start to call it again. The gavel's in the air at 75,000. I sell at 75, if no further, at $75,000 and selling at $75,000. Any further out there at $75,000. 75,6035 is your buyer. Into the home stretch here, lot 48, Hudson time. It's a 1949 Hudson Commodore Custom 6 convertible Brougham. Back there. Elegant mid-century design. This is the future we were promised. You could be like Doc Hudson here. Maroon over dark maroon. I've driven this car, albeit briefly. It was quite lovely. Nice cruiser here. And it's no reserve. This is good fun here. We'll start this one off at 10, 11,000. 11 straight in. 11. It's 11. 11,000. Straight in 11. 12, 13. It's against you. 14, 15. 15,000. I'm bidding against my book here. Any further at 15. Any further at 15. Any further at 15. I see 16. There, you want it. And good news, I'm out. You've got it. It's 16,000. Your car right now at 16,000, at 16,000, 16,000. It's 16,000 and selling at 16,000. At 16,000 only. At 16,000. At 16,000. Any further at 16. This has a very modern parking sensor system, little curb feelers. At $16,000. At 16 and selling at 16. No further, I sell at 16,000. Any further at 16, I'm selling at 16. At $16,000. Online, are we quiet at 16,000? At 16, my book's out. It's your car at $16,000. If no further, at $16,000. Down she goes. Oh, on the hammer, on the hammer. I'm sorry, on the hammer. 17 online. They just got it as I was about to fall the hammer. I am so sorry, but that bid came in as I was already falling the gavel there. At 17. At 17, at 17, it's against you. You nearly had it. I do apologize. Sometimes I see my eyes are quicker than my hand. 17 against you at 17, at 17, 18. Online faster, please, this time. At 18,000, I'll call it more quickly then. At 18,000, going once. At 18,000, going twice. At 18,000, third and final, yes, no, online, 18,000. Down she goes. Nope, too slow online. At 18,000. What was the number? 185. 18,000. All right. And now on to lot 49, the last of our Essexes. This is a 1923 Essex 4 Touring with an incredibly unusual Rex California top. Beautifully presented machine. Find me another Rex California top, or any Rex top for that matter. Very neat thing. You'll be the only person at the show with this one. And it's no reserve. Start me off, how about at 5 only? 5,000 only, at 5 only. Start me off somewhere at 5. 5 only. 5. Stand. 5. I see you there. Hands in the air at 5. At 5. He recognizes quality when he sees it. At 5,000. 5 and selling. I sell it 5 against you online. 6. 5 against you. 6-5 against you. 7. 5. It's against you at 7,500. 8. 5. Not yours. 9. 5. 10. 10. 11. Are you sure? You've come a long way. How about 12? It's 11,000 against you. I sell then at 11,000. This is 12? 12,000. Thank you very much. 12,000 against you online. 13, they say straight back. It's against you 13,000. Any further? Are you sure? You told me that last time. It's 13,000. He's walking away then. 13,000. At 13,000, never seen another Rex topped car this way. At 13,000 and selling. At 13, any further at 13. I sell at 13 to my online bidder at 13,000. 6105. Come see us in Reno. We've got a few more Essexes and about 90 other cars from the era. All right, on to lot 50. It's a Beetle, 1967 Volkswagen Beetle, ruby red, lovely machine. You can see it right there. Wooden luggage rack on the back. Keep your luggage warm. And bids take me straight in at 11,000. 11 already. It's 11,000 only. 12, 13 against you. 13, 14, 14,000 in the back. 14, 14,000. 14, 15 he says. 15 for the Bug. 15,000. 15,000 for the Beetle. At 15,000. At 15,000.